Back. This is gonna be a different one. As the last reading, I wanna get some steps in. Wow, working out. So I just got this bad boy by the way. Hey. There you go. All right. Dr. Keen listened to the retriever's heart. Dr. Keen listened to the retriever's heart and lungs with the stethoscope. With the stethoscope. Palpated his abdomen, examined his oozing eyes with an ophthalmoscope. Through those and several, I'm reading like I've never read before. Oh my gosh. Through those and several other procedures, Einstein remained limp, as if paralyzed. The only indications that the dog still clung to life were his faint whimpers and ragged breathing. It's not as serious as it seems, Nora told herself as she blotted her eyes with the Kleenex. Looking up from the dog, Dr. Keen said, "What's his name?" "Einstein," Travis said. "How long have you owned him?" "Only a few months." "Has he had his shots?" "No," Travis said. Damn it. No, Travis said. Damn it, no. "Why not?" "It's complicated," Travis said. But there are reasons that shots couldn't be gotten from. "No reason good enough," he said disapprovingly. "He's got no license, no shots. It's very irresponsible not to see that your dog is properly licensed and vaccinated." "I know," Travis said miserably. "I know." "What's wrong with Einstein?" Nora said. And she thought, hope prayed. "It's not as serious as it seems." Lightly stroking the retriever, he said, "He's got this temper." Einstein had been removed to a corner of the surgery where he lay on a thick, dog-sized foam mattress that was protected by a zippered plastic coverlet. To prevent him from moving around if at any time he had the strength to move, he was tethered on a short leash to a ring bolt in the wall. Dr. Keen had given the retriever an injection. Antibiotics, he explained. "No antibiotics are effective against this temper, but they're indicated to avoid secondary bacteriological infections." He had also inserted a needle in one of the dog's leg veins and had hooked him to a TV drip counteract dehydration. When the vet tried to put a muzzle on Einstein, both Nora and Travis objected strenuously. "It's not." Hey, truck rides. I can't see good. I need light. Okay. It's all good. It's not because I'm afraid he'll bite, Dr. Keene explained. It's for his own protection, to prevent him from chewing at the needle. If he has the strength, he will do what dogs always do to a wound. Lick and bite at the source of the irritation. Not this dog, Travis said. This dog's different. He pushed past Keene and removed the device that bound Einstein's jaws together. The vet started to protest, then thought better of it. All right, for now, he's too weak now anyway. Still trying to deny the awful truth, Nora said. But how could it be so serious? He showed only the mildest symptoms, and even those went away over a couple of days. Half the dogs who get this temper never show any symptoms at all. The vet said as he returned a bottle of antibiotics to one of the glass-fronted cabinets and tossed a disposable syringe in a waste can. Others have only a mild illness. Einstein, alright, hold on, I'll be back. I need light, I need extra light. So yeah, there we go. Half the dogs who get this temper never show any symptoms at all. The vet said as a return a bottle of antibiotics to one of the glass-fronted cabinets and tossed a disposable syringe in a waste can. Others have only a mild illness. Symptoms come and go from one day to the next. Some like Einstein get very ill. It can be gradually worsening illness, or it can change suddenly from mild symptoms to this. But there's a bright side here. Travis was crouched beside Einstein, where the dog could see him without lifting his head or rolling his eyes, and could therefore feel attended, watched over, loved. When he heard Keen mentioned a bright side, Travis looked up eagerly. What bright side? What do you mean? The dog's condition, before it contracts distemper, frequently determines the course of the disease. The illness is most acute in animals that are ill-kept and poorly nourished. It's clear to me that Einstein was given good care. Travis said, we tried to feed him well, to make sure he got plenty of exercise. He was bathed and groomed almost too often, Nora added, smiling, nodding approval. Dr. King said, then we have an edge. We have real hope. Nora looked at Travis, and he could meet her eyes only briefly before he had to look away, down at Einstein. It was left to her to ask the dreaded questions. Doctor, he's going to be all right, isn't he? He won't. He won't die. Will he? Apparently, James Keene was aware that his naturally glum face and drooping eyes presented merely in repose an expression that did little to inspire confidence. He cultivated a warm smile, a soft yet confident tone of voice, and an almost grandfatherly manner that, although perhaps calculated, seemed genuine and helped balance the perpetual gloom God had seen fit to visit upon his countenance. He came to Nora, put his hands on her shoulders. My dear, you love this dog like a baby, don't you? She bit her lip and nodded. Then have faith. Have faith in God, who watches over sparrows, so they say. And have a little faith in me, too. Believe it or not, I'm pretty good at what I do, and I deserve your faith. I believe you are good, she told him. Still squatting beside Einstein, Travis said thickly, but the chances, what are the chances? Tell me straight. Letting go of Nora, turning to Travis, Keene said, well, the discharge from his eyes and nose isn't as thick as it can get. Not nearly. No pus blisters on the abdomen. You say he's vomited, but you see no diarrhea? No, just vomiting, Travis said. His fever's high, but not dangerously so. Has he been slobbering excessively? No, Nora said. Fits of head shaking and chewing on air, sort of as if he had a bad taste in his mouth? No, Travis and Nora said simultaneously. Reason? Have you seen him lie on his side and kick violently? As if he were running? Aimless, wandering around the room? Bumping into walls? Jerking and twitching? Anything like that? No, Travis said. And Nora said, my God, could he get like that? If he goes into second stage distemper, yes, he said. Then there's brain involvement. Epileptic-like seizures. And encephalitis. Is that like a disease? Travis came to his feet in a sudden lurch. He staggered toward Keene, then stopped, swaying. His face was pale, his eyes filled with a terrible fear. Brain involvement? If he recovered, would there be brain damage? An oily nausea rippled in Nora. She thought of Einstein with brain damage. As intelligent as a man, intelligent enough to remember that he had once been special, and to know that something had been lost, and to know that he was now living in a dullness, a greatness, that his life was somehow less than what it had once been, slick and dizzy with fear. He had to lean against the examination table. He said, most dogs in second stage distemper don't survive, but if he made it, there would of course be some brain damage. Nothing that would require he be put to sleep. He might have lifelong chorea, for instance, which is involuntary jerking or twitching, whether like palsy, and often limited to the head. Damn, man. But he could be relatively happy with that. Lead a pain-free existence, and he could still be a fine pet. Travis almost shouted at the vet. To hell with whether he'd make a fine pet or not. I'm not concerned about physical effects of the brain damage. What about his mind? Well, he'd recognize his masters, the doctor said. He'd know you and remain affectionate toward you. No problem there. He might sleep a lot. He might have periods of listlessness. What? Listlessness. But he'd almost certainly remain housebroken. He wouldn't forget that training. Shaking, Travis said. I don't give a damn if he pisses all over the house as long as he can still think. Think? Dr. Koontz said, clearly perplexed. Well, what do you mean exactly? He's a dog after all. The vet had accepted their anxious, grief-wrecked behavior as within the perimeters of normal pet owner reactions in a case like this. But now, at last, he began to look at them strangely, partly to change the subject and dampen the vet's suspicion, partly because she simply had to know the answer. Nora said, all right, but is Einstein in second stage distemper? He said, from what I've seen so far, he's still in the first stage. And now that treatment has begun, if we don't see any of the more violent symptoms during the next 24 hours, I think we have a good chance of keeping him in first stage and rolling it back. And there's no brain involvement in first stage? Travis asked with an urgency that caused Keen to furrow his brow. No, not in first stage. And if it stays in first stage, Nora said, he won't die? In his softest voice and most comforting manner, James Keen said, well now, the chances are very high that he survived his first stage distemper. And without any after effects, I want you to realize that his chances of recovery are quite high. But at the same time, I don't want to give you false hope. That'd be cruel. Even if the disease proceeds no further than first stage, Einstein could die. The percentages are on the side of life. She thought she had gotten a grip on herself. She thought she was ready to be strong. But now she was crying. She went to Einstein, sat on the floor beside him, and put one hand on his shoulder just to let him know that she was there. Keen was becoming slightly impatient with and thoroughly baffled by their tumultuous emotional response to the bad news. A new note of sternness entered his voice as he said, listen, all we can do is give him top flight care and hope for the best. He will have to remain here, of course, because this temper treatment is complex and ought to be administered under veterinary antibiotics, and there will be regular anti-convulsants and sedatives if he begins to have seizures. Under Nora's hands, Einstein shivered as if he had heard and understood the grim possibilities. Alright, okay, yes, Travis said. Obviously, he's got to stay here in your office. We stay with him. There's no need, Keenan began. Right, yes, no need, Travis said quickly. But we want to stay. We'll be okay. We can sleep here on the floor tonight. Oh, I'm afraid that's not possible, Keith said. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, entirely possible. Travis said, badly now, in his eagerness to convince the vet. Don't worry about us, doctor. We'll manage just fine. Einstein needs Einstein needs us here, so we'll stay. We'll manage. We'll stay. The most important thing is that we stay. And of course, we'll pay you extra for the inconvenience. But I'm not running a hotel. We must stay, Nora said firmly. He said, now, really, I'm a reasonable man, but with both hands, Travis seized the vet's right hand and held it tightly, startling King. Listen, Dr. King, please, let me try to explain. I know this is an unusual request. I know we must sound like a couple of lunatics to you, but we've got our reasons, and they're good ones. This is no ordinary dog, Dr. King. He saved my life, and he saved mine too, Nora said, in a separate incident. And he brought us together, Travis said. Without Einstein, we would have never met, never married, and we'd both be dead. Astonished, King looked from one to the other. You mean he saved your lives? Literally? And in two separate incidents? Literally, Nora said. And then brought you together? Yes, Travis said. Changed our lives in more ways than we can count or ever explain. Held fast in Travis's hands, the vet looked at Nora, lowered his kind eyes to the wheezing retriever, shook his head, and said, I'm a sucker for heroic dog stories. I want to hear this one for sure. We'll tell you all about it, Nora promised, but she thought it would be a carefully edited version. When I was 5 years old, James King said, I was saved from drowning by a black Labrador. Nora remembered the beautiful black lab in the living room and wondered if he was actually a descendant of the animal that saved King, or just a reminder of the great debt he owed to dogs. All right, King said, you can stay. Thank you, Travis. Thank you. Travis's voice cracked. Thank you. Freeing his hand from Travis, King said, but it will be at least 48 hours before we can be at all confident that Einstein will survive. It will be a long haul. 48 hours is nothing, Travis said. 2 nights of sleeping on the floor, we can handle that. King said, I have a hunch that for you two, 48 hours is going to be an eternity. Under the circumstances, he looked at his wristwatch and said, now, my assistant will arrive in 10 minutes. And shortly after that, we'll open the office for morning hours. I can't have you on the front in here while I'm seeing other patients. And you wouldn't want to wait in the patient lounge with a bunch of other anxious owners and sick animals. That would only depress you. You can wait in the living room, and when the office is closed late this afternoon, you can return here to be with Einstein. Can we peek on him during the day? Travis asked, smiling. Travis asked, smiling. King said, all right, but just a peek. Under Nora's hands, Einstein finally stopped shivering. Some of the tension went out of him, and he relaxed, as if he had heard they would be allowed to remain close by, and was immensely comforted. The morning passed at an agonizingly slow pace. Dr. King's living room had a television set, books, and magazines, but neither Nora nor Travis could get interested in TV or reading. Every half hour or so, they slipped down the hall, one at a time, and peeked at Einstein. Gotta make it faster. Man. And peeked in at Einstein. He never seemed worse, but he never seemed any better either. King came in once and said, by the way, feel free to use the bathroom. And there's cold drinks in the refrigerator. Make coffee if you want. He smiled down at the black lab at his side. And this fella in Puka, he'll love you to death if you give him a chance. Puka was indeed one of the friendliest dogs Nora had ever seen. Without encouragement, he would roll over, play dead, sit up sit up on his haunches and then come snuffling around, tail wagging, to be rewarded with some petting and scratching. All morning, Travis ignored the dog's pleas for affection, as if petting Puka would in some way be a betrayal of Einstein and would ensure Einstein's death of distemper. Off the pace, off the pace, off the pace. All morning, however, Nora took comfort from the dog and gave it the attention it desired. She told herself that treating Puka well would please the gods, and that the gods would then look favorably upon Einstein. Her desperation produced in her a superstition just as fierce, as if different from that which gripped her husband. Travis paced. He sat on the edge of a chair, head bowed, the face in his hands. For long periods, he stood at one of the windows, staring out, not seeing the street that lay out there, but some dark vision of his own. He blamed himself for what had happened and the truth of the situation, which Nora recalled for him, and nothing to lessen his irrational sense of guilt. Facing a window, hugging himself as if he were cold, Travis said quietly, "Do you think Keen saw the tattoo? I don't know. Maybe not. Do you think there's really been a description of Einstein circulated to vets? Will Keen know what the tattoo means? Maybe not," she said. "Maybe we're too paranoid about this." But after hearing from Garrison and learning of the lengths to which the government had gone to prevent him from getting a warning to them, they knew that an enormous and urgent search for the dog must be still underway. So there was no such thing as being too paranoid. From noon until 2, Dr. King closed the office for lunch. He invited Nora and Travis to eat with him in the big kitchen. He was a bachelor who knew how to take care of himself, and he had a freezer stocked with frozen entrees that he had prepared and packaged himself. He defrosted individually wrapped slabs of homemade lasagna and, with their help, made 3 salads. The food was good, but neither Nora nor Travis was able to eat much of it. The more Nora knew of James Keen, the more she liked him. He was lighthearted in spite of his morose appearance, and his sense of humor ran toward self-deprecation. His love of animals was a light within that gave him a special glow. Dogs were his greatest love, and when he spoke of them, his enthusiasm transformed his homely features that made of him a handsomer and quite appealing man. Nora, what you doing? The doctor told him of the black lab king that had saved them, to tell him how Einstein saved their lives. Travis recounted a colorful story about going hiking and almost walking into an injured and angry bear. He described how Einstein warned him off, and then when the half-mad bear gave chase, how Einstein challenged and repeatedly foiled the beast. Nora was able to tell a story closer to the truth. harassment by a sexual psychopath whose attack had been interrupted by Einstein and who had been held by the retriever until the police arrived. He was impressed. He really is a hero. Nora says that the stories about Einstein had so completely won the vet over that. If he did spot the tattoo and completely, if he did spot the tattoo and knew what it meant, he might conceivably put it out of his mind and might let them go in peace once Einstein was recovered. If Einstein recovered. But as they were gathering up the dishes, he said, "Sam, I've been wondering why your wife calls you Travis." They were prepared for this. Since assuming new identities, they had decided that it was easier and safer for Nora to continue calling him Travis rather than trying to use Sam all the time. And then at some crucial moment, slipping up, they could claim that Travis was a nickname she'd given him, that the origin was a private joke with winks at each other and foolish grins. They could imply there was something sexual about it, something much too embarrassing to explain further. That was how they handled Keen's question. But they were in no mood to wink and grin foolishly with any conviction. So Nora was not sure they carried it off. In fact, she thought their nervous and inept performance might increase Keen's suspicions if he had any. Just before afternoon office hours were to begin, Keen received a call from his assistant, who had a headache when she had gone to lunch, and who now reported that the headache had been complicated by an upset stomach. The vet was left to handle his patients alone, so Travis quickly volunteered his and Nora's services. "We've got no veterinary training, of course, but we can handle any normal labor involved." "Sure," Nora agreed. "And between us, we've got one pretty good brain. We could do just about anything else you showed us how to do." They spent the afternoon restraining recalcitrant cats and dogs and parrots and all sorts of other animals while Gene King treated them. There were bandages to be laid out, medicines to be retrieved from the cabinets, instruments to be washed and sterilized, fees to be collected and receipts written. Some pets afflicted with vomiting and diarrhea left messes to be cleaned up, but Travis and Nora tended to those unpleasantnesses as uncomplainingly and unhesitatingly as they performed other tasks. They had two motives. The first of which was that by assisting King, they had a chance to be in surgery with Einstein throughout the afternoon. Between chores, they stole a few moments to pet the retriever, speak a few encouraging words to him, and reassure themselves that he was getting no worse. The downside of being around Einstein continuously was that they could see, to their dismay, that he did not seem to be getting any better either. Their other purpose was to further um, ingratiate themselves with the vet, to give him a reason to be holding them, to be holding to them. So he will not reconsider his decision to allow them to stay the night. The patient load was far greater than usual, he said, and they were not able to close the office until after 6 o'clock. Weariness and the labor they shared generated a warm feeling of camaraderie as they made and ate dinner together. Gene Keen entertained them with the treasure of amusing animal stories called from his experiences. And they were almost as comfortable and friendly as they would have been if they had known the vet for months instead of less than one day. He prepared the guest bedroom for them and provided a few blankets with which to make a crude bed on the floor of the surgery. Travis and Nora would sleep in the bed in shifts, each spending half the night on the floor with Einstein. Travis had the first shift from 10 o'clock until 3 in the morning. Only one light was left on the floor on the far corner. Was left on in the far corner of the surgery, and Travis alternately sat and stretched out on the piled blankets in the shadows where Einstein lay. Sometimes Einstein slept, and the sound of his breathing was more normal, less frightening, but sometimes he was awake, and his respiration was horribly labored, and he whimpered in pain, and Travis somehow knew in fear. When experiences and Travis somehow knew in fear. When Einstein was away, Travis talked to him, reminiscing about experiences they had shared, the many good moments and happy times over the past 6 months. And the retriever seemed to be at least slightly soothed by Travis's voice, unable to move at all. The dog was of necessity incontinent. A couple of times be peed on a plastic covered mattress with no distaste whatsoever, with the same tenderness and compassion a father might show in caring for a gravely ill child. Travis cleaned up in a curious way. Travis was even pleased, but the next every time Einstein peed, it was proof that he still lived, still functioned, in some ways as normally as ever. All right. Woo. This must have been annoying for the for the reader to listen to, but uh, I'm gonna continue the rest of the reading upstairs. Must have been annoying to listen to me while I was working out, but whew, it's like I'm vlogging now. Okay, be vlogging. Crap. Mm. Oh man. All right. Rain squalls came and went during the night. The sound of rain on the roof was mournful, like funeral drums. Twice during the first shift, Jim Keen appeared in pajamas in the robe. The first time, he examined Einstein carefully and changed his IV bottle. Later, he administered an injection after the examination. On both occasions, he assured Travis that right now they did not have to see signs of improvement to be encouraged. Right now, it was good enough that there were no indications of deterioration in the dog's condition. Frequently during the night, Travis wandered to the other end of the surgery and read the words of a simply framed scroll that hung above the scrub sink. Tribute to a dog. The one absolutely unselfish friend that man can have in this selfish world. The one that never deserts him. The one that never proves ungrateful or treacherous is his dog. A man's dog stands by him in prosperity and in poverty, in health and in sickness. He will sleep on the cold ground where the wintry winds blow and the snow dries fiercely. If only he may be near his master's side, he will kiss the hand that has no food to offer. He will lick the wounds and sores that come in encounter with the roughness of the world. He guards the sleep of his pauper master as if he were a prince. When all other friends desert, he remains. When riches take wing and reputation falls to pieces, he is a constant. He is as constant in his love as the sun in his journey through the heavens. Senator George Vest, 1870. Each time he read the tribute, Travis was filled anew with wonder at Einstein's existence. What fantasy of children was more common that their dogs were fully as perspective and wise and clever as any adult? What gift from God would more delight a young mind than to have the family dog prove able to communicate on a human level and share triumphs and tragedies with full understanding of their meaning and importance? What miracle, what miracle What miracle could bring more joy or more respect for the mysteries of nature, more sheer exuberance over the unanticipated wonders of life? Somehow, in the very idea of dogs' personality and human intelligence combined in a single creature, one had a hope of a species that one had a one had a hope of a species at once as gifted as humankind but more noble and worthy. At what fantasy of adults were more common than that? One day, another intelligent species would be found to share the vast, cold universe, and by sharing it, would at last provide some relief from our races, unspeakable loneliness, and sense of quiet desperation. And what other loss could be more devastating from the loss of Einstein? This first hopeful evidence that humankind carried within it the seeds not merely of greatness, but of godhood. These thoughts, which Travis could not suppress, shook him and drew from him a thick sob of grief. Damning himself for being an emotional basket case, he went into the downstairs hall where Einstein would not be aware of and perhaps be frightened by his tears. Nora relieved him at 3 in the morning. She had to insist that he go upstairs, for he was reluctant to leave Keen's surgery. Exhausted but protesting that he would not sleep, Travis tumbled into bed and slept. He dreamt of being pursued by a yellow-eyed thing with wicked talons and foreshortened alligator jaws. He was trying to protest Einstein and Nora, pushing them in front of him, encouraging them to run, run, run. But somehow the monster got around Travis and tore Einstein to pieces. Then savage Nora. It was the Cornell curse, which could not be avoided by a simple change of name to Samuel Hyatt. And at last, Travis stopped running and fell to his knees and lowered his head because, having felt Nora in the dark, he wanted to die, and he heard the thing approaching. Click, click, click. And he was afraid, but he also welcomed the death that he promised. Nora woke him shortly before 5 in the morning. Einstein, she said urgently, he's having convulsions. When Nora led Travis into the white wall surgery, Jim Keen was crouched over Einstein, ministering to him. They could do nothing but stay out of the vet's way, give him room to work. She and Travis held each other. After a few minutes, the vet stood up. He looked worried, and he did not make his usual effort to smile or try to lift their hopes. I've given him additional anticonvulsants. I think he'll be all right now. Has he gone into second stage? Travis asked. Maybe not, Keen said. Could he be having convulsions and still be in the first stage? It's possible, Keen said, but not likely. Not likely, Keen said. Keen said, but not impossible. She held Travis tighter than ever. Second stage, brain involvement, encephalitis, chorea, brain damage, brain damage. Travis would not return to bed. He remained in the surgery with Nora and Einstein the rest of that night. They turned on another light, brightening the room somewhat, but not enough to bother Einstein, and they watched him closely for signs that the distemper had progressed to the second stage. The jerking and twitching and chewing movements of which Gene Keen had spoken, Travis was unable to extract any hope from the fact that no such symptoms were exhibited. Even if Einstein was in the first stage of the disease and remained there, he appeared to be dying. So Einstein is not doing very good. Did I break these glasses? The next day, Friday, December 3rd, Jim Keen's assistant was still too sick to come to work, so Nora and Travis helped out again. By lunchtime, Einstein's fever had not fallen. His eyes and nose continued to ooze a clear though yellowish fluid. His breathing was slightly less labored, but in her despair, Nora wondered if the dog's respiration only sounded easier because he was not making as great an effort to breathe and was in fact beginning to give up. She could not eat even a bite of lunch. She washed and ironed both Travis's clothes and her own while they sat around in two of Jim Keen's spare bathrobes, which were too big for them. That afternoon, the office was busy again. Nora and Travis were kept in constant motion, and Nora was glad to be overworked. At 4:40, a time she would never forget for as long as she lived, just after they finished helping Jim deal with the difficult Irish setter. Einstein yipped twice from his bed in the corner. Nora and Travis turned, both grasping, both expecting the worst, for this was the first sound rather than whimpers that Einstein had made since his arrival at the surgery. But the retriever had lifted his head the first time he had the strength to lift it, and was blinking at them. He looked around curiously, as if to ask where on earth he was. Jim knelt beside the dog, and while Travis and Nora crouched expectantly behind him, he thoroughly examined Einstein. Look at his eyes. They're slightly milky, but not at all like they were, and they've stopped actively leaking. With the damp cloth, he cleaned the crusted fur beneath Einstein's eyes and wiped off his nose. The nostrils were no longer bubbled with fresh exertions. With the rectal thermometer, he took Einstein's temperature and, reading it, said, falling down to 2 full degrees. Thank God, Travis said. And Nora discovered that her eyes were filling with tears again. Jim said, he's not out of the woods yet. His heartbeat is more regular, less accelerated, though still not good. Nora, got one of those dishes over there and fill it. Nora, get one of those dishes over there and fill it with some water. Nora returned from the sink a moment later and put the dish down on the floor at the vet's side. Jim pushed it close to Einstein. What do you think, fella? Einstein raised his head off the mattress again and stared at the dish. His lolling tongue looked dry and was coated with a gummy substance. He whined and licked his chops. Maybe, Travis said, if we help him. No, Jim Keen, Jim, Jim Keen said. Let him consider it. He'll know if he feels up to it. We don't want to force water that's going to make him vomit again. He'll know by instinct if the time is right. With some groaning and wheezing, Einstein shifted on the foam mattress, rolling off his side, half onto his belly. He put his nose to the dish, sniffed the water, put his tongue to it tentatively, liked the first taste, had another, and drank a third of it before sighing and lying down again. Stroking the retriever, Jim Keen said, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't fully recover in time. In time. In time. That phrase bothered Travis. How much time would Einstein require for a full recovery? When the outsider finally arrived, they would all be better off if Einstein was healthy and if all of his senses were functioning sharply. The infrared alarms notwithstanding, Einstein was their primary early warning system. After the last patient left at 5:30, Jim Jim Keen slipped out for half an hour on a mysterious errand, and when he returned, he had a bottle of champagne. I'm not much of a drinking man, but certain occasions demand a nip or two. Nora had pledged to drink nothing during her pregnancy, but even the most solemn pledge could be stretched under these circumstances. They got they got glasses and drank in the surgery, toasting Einstein, who watched them for a few minutes but exhausted soon fell asleep. But a natural sleep, Jim noted, not induced with sedatives. Travis said, how long will he need to recover? To shake off distemper a few more days, a week. I'd like to keep him here 2 more days anyway. You could go home now if you want, but you're also welcome to stay. You've been quite a help. We'll stay, Nora said at once. But after the distemper is being, Travis said, he's going to be weak, isn't he? At first, very weak, Jim said, but gradually he'll get most, if not all, of his old strength back. I'm sure now that he never went into second stage distemper in spite of the convulsions. So perhaps by the first of the year, he'll be his old self. and there will be no lasting infirmities, no pulse side shaking or anything like that. The first of the year, Travis hoped that would be soon enough. Again, Nora and Travis split the night into two shifts. Travis took the first watch, and she relieved them in the surgery at 3 o'clock in the morning. Fog had seed into caramel or caramel into caramel. It rolled at the windows, softly insistent. Einstein was sleeping when Nora arrived, and she said, "Has he been awake much?" "Yeah," Travis said, "now and then." "Have you talked to him?" "Yeah." "Well," Travis's face was lined, haggard, and his expression was grave. "I've asked him questions that can be answered with a yes or no." And he doesn't he doesn't answer them. He just blinks at me or yawns or he goes back to sleep. He's very tired yet. She said, desperately hoping that oh nice. That's just awesome. Oh, that's so bright. Desperately hoping that desperately hoping that was the expression that was the explanation for the retriever's uncommunicative behavior. He doesn't have the strength even for questions and answers. Pale and obviously depressed, Travis said. Maybe, I don't know. But I think he seems but I think he seems confused. He hasn't shaken the disease yet, she said. He's still in the grip of it, beating the damn stuff, but still in its grip. He's bound to be a little muddled at it for a while yet. Confused, Travis repeated. It'll pass. Yeah, he said. Yeah, it'll pass. But he sounded as if he believed that Einstein would never be the same again. Nora knew that Travis must be thinking it was the Cornell curse again, which he professed not to believe in, but which he still feared in his heart of hearts. Everyone he loved was doomed to suffer and die young. Everyone he cared about was torn from him. That was all nonsense, of course, and Norris did not believe in it for a moment. But she knew how hard it was to shake off the past, to face only toward the future, and she sympathized with his inability to be optimistic just now. She also knew there was nothing she could do for him to haul him out of that pit of private anguish. Nothing except kiss him, hold him for a moment, then send him off to bed to get some sleep. When Travis was gone, Nora sat on the floor beside Einstein and said, "There are some things I have to tell you, Furface. I guess you're asleep and can't hear me. And maybe if you were awake, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. Maybe you'll never understand again, which is why I want to say these things now, while there's at least still hope that your mind's intact." She paused and took a deep breath and looked around at the still surgery, where the dim lights gleamed in the stainless steel fixtures and in the glass of the enameled cabinets. It was a lonely place at 3:30 in the morning. Einstein breath came and went with a soft hiss, an occasional rattle. He didn't stir, not even his tail moved. "I thought of you as my guardian, Einstein. That's what I called you once. And when you saved me from Arthur Streck, my guardian, you not only rescued me from that awful man, you also saved me from loneliness and terrible despair. And you saved Travis from the darkness within him, brought us together, and in 100 other ways you were as perfect as any guardian angel might hope to be. In that good, pure heart of yours, you never asked for us. You never asked for or wanted anything in return for all you did. Some milk bones once in a while, a bit of chocolate now and then, but have you'd have done it all even if you'd been fed nothing but dog chow. You did it because you love, and being loved in return was reward enough. And by just being what you are, Furface, you taught me a great lesson, a lesson I can't easily put into words. For a while, silent and unable to speak, she sat in the shadows beside her friend, her child, her teacher, her guardian. But damn it, she said at last, I've got to find words because, baby, this is the last time I can even pretend you're able to understand them. It's like this. You taught me that I'm your guardian too, that I'm Travis's guardian, and that, oh, crap. Oh, crap. And that he is my guardian, yours. We have a responsibility to stand and watch over one another. We are watchers, all of us, watchers guarding against the darkness. You taught me that we're all needed, even even those who sometimes think we're worthless, plain, and dull. If we love and allow ourselves to be loved, well, a person who loves is the most precious thing in the world, worth all the fortunes that ever were. That's what you've thought. That's why you taught me, Furface. And because of you, I'll never be the same. The rest of the long night, Einstein lay motionless, lost in a deep sleep. Saturday, Jim Jim Keen kept hours only in the morning. At noon, he locked the office entrance at the side of his big, cozy house. During the morning, Einstein had exhibited encouraging movements, encouraging uh, signs of recovery. He drank more water and spent some time on his belly instead of lying limply on his side, head raised. He looked around with interest at the activity in the vet's surgery. He even slurped up a raw dog and gravy mixture that Jim put in front of him, drowning half the contents of the dish, and he did not regurgitate what he had eaten. He was now entirely off intravenous fluids, but he still dozed a lot. And his response to Travis and Nora were only those of an ordinary dog. After lunch, as they were sitting with Jim at the kitchen table, having a final cup of coffee, the vet sighed and said, "Well, I don't see how this can be put off any longer." From an inner pocket of his old, well-worn corduroy jacket, he withdrew a folded sheet of paper and put it on the table in front of Travis. For a moment, Nora thought it was the bill for his services, but when Travis unfolded the paper, she saw it was a wanted flyer put out by the people looking for Einstein. Ooh. Oh no. Oh no. Feeling as if her heart had begun to sink down through her body, Nora moved closer to Travis so they could read the bulletin together. It was dated last week, in addition to a description of Einstein that included the three-number tattoo as his ear. Oh, in addition to a description of Einstein that included the three-number tattoo in his ear, the flyer stated that the dog would most likely be found in possession of a man named Travis Cornell and his wife, Nora, who might be living under different names. Descriptions and photographs of Nora and Travis were at the bottom of the sheet. How long have you known? Travis asked. Jim Keen said, within an hour after I first saw him, Thursday morning. I've been getting weekly updates of I've been getting weekly updates of that bulletin for 6 months, and I've had three follow-up calls from the Federal Cancer Institute to make sure I'll remember to examine any golden retriever for a lab tattoo and report it at once. And have you reported him? Nora asked. Not yet. Didn't seem any point arguing about it until we saw whether he was going to pull through, Travis said. Will you report him now? his hound dog face settling into an expression that was even more glum than usual. Jim Keen said, according to the Cancer Institute, this dog was at the very center of extremely important experiments that might lead to a cancer cure. Says there that millions of dollars of research money will have been millions of dollars of research money will have been spent for nothing if the dog isn't found and returned to the lab to complete their studies. It's all lies, Travis said. Let me make one thing very Let me make one thing very clear to you, Jim said, leaning forward in his chair and folding his large hands around his coffee cup. I'm an animal lover to the bone. I have dedicated my life to animals, and I love dogs more than anything else. But I'm afraid I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who believe that we should stop all animal experimentation. People who think medical advancements that help save human lives are not worth harming one guinea pig, one cat, one dog. People who raise lives and steal animals, ruining years of important research. They make me want to spit. It's good and right to love life, to dearly love it in all its most humble forms, but these people don't love life. They revere it, which is a pagan and ignorant and perhaps even savage attitude. This isn't like that, Nora said. Einstein was never used in cancer research. That's just a cover story. The Cancer Institute isn't hunting for Einstein. It's the National Security Agency that wants him. She looked at Travis and said, well, what do we do now? Travis smiled grimly and said, well, I can't kill Jim. I sure can't kill Jim here to stop him. The vet looked startled. So I guess we've got to persuade him, Travis finished. The truth? Nora asked. Travis stared at Jim Keen for a long time and at last said, yeah, the truth. It's only one thing that might convince him to throw that damn wanted poster in the trash. Taking a deep breath, Nora said, Jim, Einstein is as smart as you or me or Travis. Smarter, I think sometimes, Travis said. The vet stared at them, uncomprehending. Let's make another pot of coffee, Nora said. This is going to be a long afternoon. Hours later, at 10 minutes past 5 Saturday afternoon, Nora and Travis and Jim Keen crowded in front of the mattress on which Einstein lay. The dog had just taken a few more ounces of water. He looked at them with interest too. Travis tried to decide if those large brown eyes still had the strange depth, uncanny alertness, and undog-like awareness that he had seen in them so many times before. Damn, he was not sure, and his uncertainty scared him. Jim examined Einstein, noting out aloud that his eyes were clear, almost normal, and that his temperature was still falling. Heart's sounding a little better too. Worn out by the 10-minute examination, Einstein flopped onto his side and issued a long, weird sigh. In a moment, he dozed again. The vet said, he sure doesn't seem like a genius dog. He's still sick, Nora said. All he needs is a little more time to recover, and he'll be able to show you that everything we've said is true. What do you think? He'll be on his feet? When do you think he'll be on his feet? Travis asked. Jim thought about that, then said, maybe tomorrow. He'll be very shaky at first, but maybe tomorrow. We'll just have to see. When he's on his feet, Travis said, when he's got his sense of balance back and is interested in moving around, that ought to indicate he's clear in his head too. So when he's up and about, that's when we'll give him a test to prove to you how smart he is. Fair enough, Jim said. And if he proves it, Nora said, you will not turn him in? Wow. Turn him in to people who'd create this outsider you told me about? turn him into the liars who cooked up that baloney wanted fire? Nora, what sort of man do you take me for? And Nora said, a good man. 24 hours later, on Sunday evening, in Jim Keen's surgery, Einstein was tottering around as if he were a little old four-legged man. Nora scooted along the floor on her knees beside him, telling him what a fine and brave fellow he was, quietly encouraging him to keep going. Every step he took thrilled her as if he were her own baby learning to walk, but what thrilled her more was the look he gave her a few times. It was a look that seemed to express chagrin at his infirmity, but there was also a sense of humor in it, as if he were saying, "Hey, Nora, am I a spectacle or what? Isn't this just plain ridiculous?" Yeah, I said it right. Anyway, Saturday night he had eaten a little solid food, and all day Sunday he had nibbled at easily digestible vitals that the vet provided. He was drinking well, and the most encouraging sign of improvement was his insistence on going outside to make his toilet. He could not stay on his feet for long periods of time, and once in a while he wobbled and plopped backward on his butt. However, he did not bump into walls or walk in circles. Yesterday, Nora had gone shopping and had returned with 3 Scrabble games. Now, Travis had separated the letter tiles into 26 piles at one end of the surgery, where there was a lot of open floor space. We're ready, Jim Keen said. He was sitting on the floor with Travis, his legs drawn up under him Indian style. Puka was lying at his master's side, watching with baffled dark eyes. Nora led Einstein back across the room to the Scrabble tiles, taking his head in her hands, looking straight into his eyes. She said, "Okay, Furface, let's prove to Dr. Jim that you're not just some pathetic lab animal involved in cancer tests. Let's show him what you really are and prove to him what those nasty people really want you for." She tried to believe that she saw the old awareness in the retriever's dark gaze. With evident nervousness and fear, Travis said, "Who asked the first question?" "I will," Nora said unhesitatingly. To Einstein, she said, "How's the fiddle?" They had told Jim Keen about the message that Travis had found the morning Einstein had been so very ill. Fiddle broke. So the vet understood what Nora was asking. Einstein blinked at her, then looked at the letters, blinked at her again, sniffed the letters, and she was getting a sick feeling in her stomach when suddenly he began to choose the tiles and push them around with his nose. Fiddle, just out of tune. Travis shuddered as if the dread he had contained was a powerful electric charge that had leaped out of him in an instant. He said, "Thank God. Thank you, God." And he laughed with delight. "Holy shit," Jim Keen said. Puka raised his head very high and pricked his ears, aware that something important was happening, but not sure what it was. Her heart swelling with relief and excitement and love, Nora returned the letters to their separated tiles and said, "Einstein, who is your master? Tell us his name." The retriever looked at Travis, then made a considered reply. "No master. Friends." Travis laughed. "By God, I'll settle for that. No one can be his master, but anyone should be damn proud to be his friend." Funny, this proof of Einstein's undamaged intellect made Travis laugh with delight, the first laughter of which he had been capable in days, but it made Nora weep with relief. Jim Keene looked on in wide-eyed wonder, grinning stupidly. He said, I feel like a child who sneaked downstairs on Christmas Eve and actually seen the real Santa Claus putting gifts under the tree. My turn, Travis said, sliding forward and putting a hand on Einstein's head, patting him. Jim just mentioned Christmas, and it's not far away, 20 days from now. So tell me, Einstein, what would you like to have Santa bring you? Twice, Einstein started to line up the letter tiles, but both times he had second thoughts and disarranged them. He tuttered and thumped down on his butt, looked around sheepishly, saw that they were all expectant, got up again. This time, produced a three-word request for Santa. Mickey Mouse videos. They didn't get to bed until 2 in the morning. Because Jim Keene was intoxicated, not drunk from beer or wine or whiskey, but from sheer joy over Einstein's intelligence. Like a man's, yes, but still the dog, wonderfully wonderfully different from a man's thinking. Based on based on what little I've seen, oh my God, based on what little I've seen. But Jim did not press. Oh my gosh. 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 Uh oh. Yeah. There we go. But Jim did not press for more than a dozen examples of the dog's wit, and he was the first to say they must not tire their patient. Still, he was electrified, so excited he could barely contain himself. Travis could not have been surprised if the vet had suddenly just exploded. In the kitchen, Jim pleaded with them to retell stories about Einstein, the modern bride business and solving, the way he had taken it upon himself to add cold water to the first hot bath that Travis had given him, and many more. Jim actually retold some of the same stories himself, almost as if Travis and Nora had never heard them, but they were happy to indulge them. With a flourish, he snatched the wanted flyer off the table, struck a kitchen match, and burned the sheet in the sink. He washed the ashes down the drain. To hell with the small minds who keep a creature like that locked up to be poked and prodded and studied. They might have had the genius to make Einstein, but they don't understand the meaning of what they themselves had done. Oh my gosh. Let me sleep. They don't understand the greatness of it, because if they did, they wouldn't want to cage him. At last, when Jim Keene reluctantly agreed that they were all in need of sleep, Travis carried Einstein, already sleeping, off to the great off to the guest room. They made a blanket cushion place for him on the floor next to the bed. In the dark, under the covers, with Einstein's soft snoring to comfort them, Travis and Nora held each other. She said, "Everything's going to be all right now." "There's still some trouble coming," he said. He felt as if Einstein's recovery had weakened the curse of untimely death that had followed him all his life, but he was not ready to hope that the curse had been banished altogether. The outsider was still out there somewhere, coming. 10. On Tuesday afternoon, December 7, when they took Einstein home, Jim Keene was reluctant to let them go. He followed them out to the pickup and stood at their driver's window, restating that the treatment that must be continued for the next couple of weeks, reminding them reminding them that he wanted to see Einstein once a week for the rest of the month, and urging them to visit him not only for the dog's medical care, but for drinks, dinner conversation. Travis knew the vet was trying to say he wanted to remain a part of Einstein's life, wanted to participate in the magic of it. Jim, believe me, we'll be back. And before Christmas, you have to come out to our you will have to come out to our place. Spend a day with us. I like that. So would we, Travis said sincerely. On the drive home, Nora held Einstein in her lap, wrapped in a blanket once more. He still did not have his old appetite, and he was weak. His immune system had taken severe punishment, so he would be more than usually susceptible to illness for a while. He was to be kept in the house as much as possible and pampered until he had regained his previous vigor, probably after the first of the year, according to Jim Keene. The bruised and swollen sky bulged with saturated dark clouds. The Pacific Ocean was so hard and gray that it did not appear to the water, but looked more like buildings of shards and slabs of slate being continuously agitated by some geological upheaval in the earth below. The bleak weather could not dampen their high spirits. Nora was beaming, and Travis found himself whistling. Einstein studied the scenery with great interest, clearly treasuring even the somber beauty of this nearly colorless winter day. Perhaps he had never expected to see the world outside Jim Keene's office again, in which case even a sea of jumbo stone and the contusive sky were precious sights. When they reached home, Travis left Nora in the pickup with the retriever and entered the house alone. By the back by the back door carrying the .38 pistol they kept in the truck. In the kitchen, where the lights had been on ever since their hasty departure last week, he immediately took an Uzi automatic pistol from its hiding place in the cabinet and put the lighter gun aside. He proceeded cautiously from room to room, looking behind every large item of furniture and in every closet. He saw no signs of burglary, and he expected none. This rural area was relatively crime-free. You could leave your door unlocked for days at a time without risking thieves who would take everything down to the wallpaper. The outsider, not a burglar, worried him. The house was deserted. Travis checked the barn too before driving the pickup inside, but it was also safe. In the house, Nora put Einstein down and pulled the blanket off him. He tutted around the kitchen, sniffing at things in the living room. He looked at the cold fireplace and inspected this page turning machine. He returned to the kitchen pantry, clicked on the light with his foot pedal, and pawed letters out of the licit tubes. Home. Stooping beside the dog, Travis said, "It's sure good to be here, isn't it?" Einstein nuzzled Travis's throat and licked his neck. The golden coat was fluffy and smelled clean because Jim Keene had given the dog a bath in a surgery under carefully controlled conditions. But as fluffy and fresh as he was, Einstein still did not look himself. He seemed tired, and he was thinner too, having lost a few pounds in less than a week. Pawing out more letters, Einstein spelled the same word again as if to emphasize his pleasure. Home. Standing at the pantry door, Nora said, "Home is where the heart is, and there's plenty of heart in this one. Hey, let's have an early dinner and eat it in the living room while we run the videotape of Mickey's Christmas Carol. Would you like that?" Einstein wagged his tail vigorously. Travis said, "Do you think you could handle you can handle your favorite food? A few weenies for dinner?" Einstein licked his chops. He dispensed more letters with which he expressed his enthusiastic approval of Travis's suggestion. Home is where the weenies are. When Travis woke in the middle of the night, Einstein was at the bedroom window on his
on his hind feet with his forepaws braced on the sill. He was barely visible in the second-hand glow of the nightlight in the adjoining bathroom. The interior shutter was bolted over the window, so the dog had no view of the front yard. But perhaps, forgetting a fix on the outsider, sight was a sense of which he least depended. Something out there, boy? Travis asked quietly, not wanting to wake Nora unnecessarily. Einstein dropped from the window, padded to Travis's side of the bed, and put his head on the mattress. Petting the dog, Travis whispered, "Is it coming?" Replying with only a cryptic mew, Einstein settled down on the floor beside the bed and went to sleep again. In a few minutes, Travis slept too. He woke again near John to find Nora sitting on the edge of the bed, petting Einstein. "Go back to sleep," she told Travis. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she whispered drowsily. "I woke up and saw him at the window, but it's nothing. Go to sleep." He did manage to fall asleep a third time, but he dreamed that the outsider had been smart enough to learn how to use tools during its 6-month long pursuit of Einstein. And now, yellow eyes gleaming, it was smashing its way through the bedroom shutters with an axe. They gave Einstein his medicines on schedule, and he swallowed his pills obediently. They complained to him that he needed to eat well in order to regain his strength. He tried, but his appetite was returning only slowly. He would need a few weeks to regain the pounds he had lost and recover his old vitality. But day by day, his improvement was perceptible. By Friday, December 10th, Einstein seemed strong enough to risk a short walk outside. He still wobbled a little now and then, but he no longer tottered with every step. He had all of his shots at the veterinary clinic. There was no chance of picking up rabies on top of the distemper just being. The weather was milder than it had been in recent weeks, with temperatures in the low 60s and no wind. The The scattered clouds were white, and the sun, when not hidden, laid a warm, life-giving caress on the skin. Einstein accompanied Travis on an inspection tour of the infrared sensors around the house and the nitrous oxide tanks in the barn. They moved a bit more slowly than the last time they had walked this line together, but Einstein seemed to enjoy being back on duty. Nora was in her studio, working diligently on a new painting, a portrait of Einstein. He was now aware that he was the subject of her latest canvas. The picture was to be one of his Christmas gifts and would, once open on the holiday, be hung above the fireplace in the living room. When Travis and Einstein came out of the barn into the yard, he said, "Is it getting closer?" Upon being asked that question, Einstein went through his usual routine, though with less exertion, less sniffing of the air, and less study of the shadowy forest around him. Returning to Travis, the dog whined anxiously. "Is it out there?" Travis asked. Einstein gave no answer. He merely surveyed the woods again, puzzled. "Is it still coming?" Travis asked. The dog did not reply. "Is it nearer than it was?" Einstein patted in a circle, sniffed the ground, sniffed the air, cocked his head one way and then the other. Finally, he returned to the house and stood on the door looking at Travis, waiting patiently. Inside, Einstein went directly to the pantry. "Muzzy." Travis stared at the word on the floor. "Muzzy?" Einstein dispensed more letters and nosed them into place. Muffled. Fuzzy. "Are you talking about your ability to sense the outsider?" A quick tail wag. "Yes." "You can't sense it anymore?" One bark. "No." "Do you think it's dead?" "Don't know." "Or maybe this sixth sense of yours doesn't work when you're sick or deliberate." debilitated like you are now, maybe. Gathering up the letter tiles and sorting them into the tubes, Travis thought for a minute. Bad thoughts, unnerving thoughts. They had an alarm system around the property, yes, but to some extent, they were depending on Einstein for an early warning. Travis would Travis should have felt comfortable with the precautions he had taken and with his own abilities as a former Delta Force man to exterminate the outsider, but he was tormented by the feeling that he had overlooked a hole in their defenses and that come to the crisis, he would need Einstein's full powers and strength to help him deal with the unexpected. You're going to have to get well as fast as you can, he told the retriever. You're going to have to try to eat even when you have no real appetite. You're going to have to sleep as much as you can. Give your body a chance to knit up and don't spend half the night at the windows worrying. Chicken soup, laughing, Travis said. Might as well try that too. A boiler maker kills germs dead. Where'd you get that idea? Book. What's Boilermaker? Travis said, a shot of whiskey dropped into a glass of beer. Einstein considered that for a moment. Kill germs but become alcoholic. Travis laughed and ruffled Einstein's coat. You're a regular comedian for a face. Maybe I should play Vegas. I bet you could. Headliner. You could certainly be. You certainly would be. Me and Plazadora. He hugged the dog and they sat in the pantry laughing, each in his own way. In spite of the joking, Travis knew that Einstein was deeply troubled by the loss of his ability to sense the outsider. The jokes were a defensive mechanism, a way to hold off fear. That afternoon, exhausted from their short walk around the house, Einstein slept while Nora painted feverishly in her woods, feverishly in her studio. Travis sat by a front window, staring out at the woods, repeatedly going over their defenses in his mind, looking for a hole. On Sunday, December 12th, Jim Keen came out to their place in the afternoon and stayed for dinner. He examined Einstein and was pleased with the dog's improvement. Seems slow to us, Nora said fretfully. I told you it would take time, Jim said. He made a couple of changes in Einstein's medication and left new bottles of pills. Einstein had fun demonstrating his page turning machine and his letter dispensing device in the pantry. He graciously accepted praise for his ability to hold a pencil in his teeth and use it to operate a television and the videotape recorder without bothering Nora and Travis for help. Nora was at first surprised that the veterinarian looked less sad-eyed and sorrowful than she remembered, but she decided his face was the same. The only thing that had changed was her perception of him. Now that she knew him better, now that he was a friend of the first rank, she not only she sought not only the glum features nature that had given him that she saw not only the glum features nature had given him, but the kindness and humor beneath his somber surface. Over dinner, Jim said, "I've been doing a little research into tattooing to see if maybe I can remove the numbers in his ear." Einstein had been lying on the floor nearby, listening to their conversation. He got to his feet, wobbled a moment, then hurried to the kitchen table and jumped into one of the empty chairs. He sat very erect and stared at Jim expectantly. Well, the vet said, putting down a forkful of curried chicken that he lifted halfway to his mouth. Most, but not all tattoos can be eradicated. If I know what sort of ink was used and by what method it was embedded under the skin, I might be able to erase it. That would be terrific, Nora said. Then, even if they found us and tried to take Einstein back, they couldn't prove that he's the dog they lost. There'd still be traces of the tattoo that would show up under close inspection, Travis said. Under a magnifying glass, Einstein looked from Travis to Jim Keen as if to say, yeah, what about that? Most labs just tag research animals, Jim said. Of those that tattoo, there are a couple of different standards inks used. I might be able to remove it and leave no trace except the natural looking modeling of the flesh. Microscopic examination wouldn't reveal traces of the ink, not a hint of the numbers. It's a small tattoo after all, which makes the job easier. I'm still researching techniques, but in a few weeks, we might try it if Einstein doesn't mind some discomfort. The retriever left the table and padded into the pantry. They could hear the pumping of the letter dispensing pedals. Nora went to see what message Einstein was composing. Don't want to be branded. I'm not a cow. His desire to be free of the tattoo went deeper than Nora had thought. He wanted the mark removed in order to escape identification by the people at the lab, but evidently he also hated carrying those three numbers in his ear because they marked him as mere property, a condition that was an affront to his dignity and a violation of his rights as an intelligent creature. Freedom. Yes, Nora said respectfully, putting a hand on his head. I do understand. You are a person. And a person with, this was the first time she had thought of this aspect of the situation. A soul. Was it blasphemous to think Einstein had a soul? No. She did not think blasphemy entered into it. Man had made the dog. However, if there was a God, he obviously approved of Einstein. Not least of all because Einstein's ability to differentiate right from wrong, his ability to love, his courage, and his selflessness made him closer to the image of God than were many human beings who walked the earth. Freedom, she said. If you've got a soul, and I know you do, then you were born with free will and a right to self-determination. The number in your ear is an insult, and we'll get rid of it. After dinner, Einstein clearly wanted to monitor and participate in the conversation, but he ran out of energy and slept by the fire. Over a short brandy and coffee, Jim Keen listened as Travis outlined their defenses against the outsider. Encouraged to find holes in their preparations, the vet could think of nothing except the vulnerability of their power supply. If the thing was smart enough to bring down the line that runs in from the main highway, it could plunge you in darkness. It could plunge you into darkness in the middle of the night and render your alarm useless. And without power, those tricky mechanisms in the barn wouldn't slam the door behind the beast or release the nitrous oxide. Nora and Travis took him downstairs into the half basement under the rear of the house to show him the emergency generator. It was powered by a 40-gallon tank of gasoline buried in the yard, and it would restore electricity to the house and barn and alarm system after only a 10-second delay following the loss of the main supply. As far as I can see, Jim said, you've thought of everything. I think we have to, I said. But Travis scowled. I wonder. Alright, obviously, yeah. It's still possible to finish the book in one sitting, but no, it was gonna take me a while. It's gonna take me a minute. Obviously, Yeah, this will definitely be finished tomorrow, but I'm gonna take a break. Gonna end it. That'll be the end of the reading for now. So a quick recap of what I read. Uh, Einstein got sick, got really sick, got taken to the vet. At first, the vet Jim started getting suspicious of the owners Nora and Travis because they were acting a little too, what's the word? Oh, a little too attached to the dog, too emotional. And they were asking way too many questions, but at the end, when Einstein started to get better, he was able to see and find the reason why both Nora and Travis were and are so deeply attached to the dog. Right when Einstein started getting better, that's when whew, Jim pulled out the paper of the wanted flyer of Einstein. That's where both Nora and Travis started getting shook because they thought Jim was gonna turn them in, but the whole time Jim is a cool guy. He let both uh, Nora and Travis stay over and just be there with Einstein while he was still recovering, and with Nora and Travis telling Jim the whole story of why they were so passionate and like deeply and emotionally attached to the dog was because it saved both of their lives and showed what Einstein could do. Jim has Jim was on their side now, and he now he is now, I guess, part of the crew now. He's now willing to do anything to protect the dog. He is thinking of now trying to remove the tattoo from Einstein because those three numbers on the dog is a big risk because of Einstein being found out. So he's willing to help the family get rid of the dog tattoos, but he's still working on that. But anyway, yeah, Einstein is getting better now. Actually, getting better now because he went to the vet, which is good. But the problem is he's having trouble tracking the outsider, so that's a little iffy. But it's Christmas is nearing, and yeah, the family is jolly, but is Travis and Einstein are worrying a little bit because the outsider could be anywhere. So yeah, that was just a little recap of what I read. And the rest will be finished tomorrow. How long was this video? An hour? Oh, it's not bad.